you have these fast trackers, not to badmouth fast trackers, but there's a certain maturity level that comes with being a senior NCO and understanding people. We don't have that in our 20s. We're still figuring out ourselves.
This is Charlie Mike, the podcast. Veterans helping veterans, talking about things happening in the veteran community, things we've experienced and overcome, such as addictions, PTSD, depression, legal trouble. And we also promote veteran-owned businesses. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. This is Charlie Mike, the podcast.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Charlie Mike, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Raul, and your co-host is William.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Charlie Mike, the podcast, where we talk about continuing the mission. Feels good.
That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. And, we gotta... I suck at keeping secrets.
Yes, you do.
And I am the worst gift giver in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because if your birthday is like 2 months from now and I bought the gift already, I want to give it to you already.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's I'm horrible.
You know, man, that's funny because that's something that I do often. I told my wife, there's no point in me getting you your birthday gift. I give you gifts in the entire year. Just randomly, whatever it is you want. I don't want my baby to wait. What my baby wants, my baby gets. Bro,
wait, you talking about me or your wife?
Yes. So if you are active with us on socials, you'll see that Raul drops a lot of hints. There's a lot of good things coming for us. We're really excited to turn the corner into this new year. We're not holding back, though. We are definitely grinding it out, as well as you should be. We're getting started now, preparing for the new year. We hope you are too.
Yeah, we definitely got a lot of things coming up in the works. We're excited about where we're headed and the things that we're in the making of. God, like I always say, if you're a fan, stay tuned. If you like us, stay tuned. If you don't like us, stay tuned either way.
Yeah, we'll let the show out.
You're gonna want to see this. Man, tell us, intro our guest, brother.
Yes. So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mr. Arthur Cruz. Sergeant Cruz and I met in San Antonio. He was my platoon sergeant for a while down there at the Warrior Transition Battalion at Fort Sam. He's done it all. He's a combat medic, was in the reserves, a flight medic for the Texas Army National Guard, served 22 years, did get his master's degree in education, which is phenomenal, in leadership development. And I can tell you, when I left Fort Sam, I would call this man randomly for advice, just to kind of chit chat, because we often turn to those who have been through it, and I'm really excited to have him on. So without further ado, here's Mr. Arthur Cruz. Cruz, could you tell us something that not everybody knows about you?
Something that my biggest fear is failure. And that's either failing as a father, failing as a husband, and then when I wore the uniform, it was my driving moniker in my head that I never wanted to fail my soldiers. So it always allowed me to put y'all before me.
Man, I love that. Now that you say it, I definitely model a lot after that. Father, husband, uniform. We were just talking to another veteran, and he talks about leadership is love and how you want to lead others as you love them. And your soldiers, you treat your soldiers like your family. You treat your family sometimes like your soldiers, and then it's all one big blend. And you're exactly right. He definitely did that.
I tried, I tried. I like to think I was successful, and I gauged that by what you said earlier. When your soldiers reach back and continue to ask for guidance and advice after you've taken off the uniform, then obviously you've impacted them in some way, shape, or form. And you did that. Sancho still does it. Em and I still talk, and we built a tight-knit group. And I tell people all the time, two of my best times in the military were a unit that I served with in Korea and the WTB. It was unlike anything else. And I think, again, here you and I are still talking, and it's been how long now? Over 8-9 years?
Exactly.
That's insane. Yeah. You definitely make you keep in contact with the ones that had an impact in your life. I do the same as well. of course, there's some that I never want to speak to again, but
So let's back up. Let's tell us what it was like before you joined the Army. What drove your decision to join?
Typical 18-year-old graduating high school, had no idea what I wanted to do. I grew up in a Hispanic household. Both parents are still together to this day. So it wasn't those coming from a single parent family. But at the same time, my parents were influenced by their parents to say, you need to get a college education. You need to start planning for life. It was really, you're 18, figure it out, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to stay home because if I stayed home, I was going to get in trouble, end up in jail, end up dead, or some two-bit job. So my dad was a Marine. My grandparents, on both sides fought in World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. So I was like, well, I'll join the military. I have really nothing else to do. It's one of those kind of things. And I went to the Marine Corps first and told them I wanted to do medicine, but they said, nope, you have to go to the Navy for that. So when I went to the Navy recruiter, I asked them, they're like, well, you're not guaranteed to get with the Marines. You might get stuck on a ship. I was like, well, I'm not one to be stuck in the water for 6 months, so that's definitely not for me. Who's next? And it was the Army. So I went into the Army, and it's one of those things where I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for serving. And it's not necessarily the service. It's the friendships that I built, the mentoring that I received. Of course, the benefits, those benefits allowed me to get a degree and set that standard for my kids. But that's where it started. Just lost, didn't have a clue on what to do. And, I figured I can't depend on mom and dad because I wanted to be that type of guy as a man. My dad still said, it doesn't matter what you do in life. Your job as a man is to provide, whether that's for yourself or for your family. And if you don't have a plan, you need to figure one out. So I did. I didn't even consult them when I joined the military. I came home and showed him my contract, and he's like, what the hell did you do? I joined the Army. That's where it started.
Were they supportive?
Definitely. I mean, my dad's a hard-headed Marine, Vietnam vet, not one to show his feelings, very compartmentalized life, internalized everything, didn't really discuss anything. And you could tell it bothered him, but it bothered him because he knew what I was about to do and what might happen should something pop off, because he had already been there. And that was his fear as a father, and any father is to lose their child in any way, shape, or form, whether they're sick in the hospital. And now you have to accept the fact that your son is joining the military, and there's a possibility he might go to war. And it's more likelier than not that they're going to die than come back. And that was his train of thought. So it was a long discussion. Mom was not happy at all, but she said, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you.
So with your father being a Vietnam veteran, man, what led him to join the Marine Corps?
He was the old school, get in trouble, go to jail, or join the service kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man, yeah. Hey, sometimes that's the best.
Yeah, it worked.
And back then, that's what they were doing. Oh, you're gonna join the Army? I'll join the Army. You're gonna join the Marines? So they joined them. The old buddy program back in the day.
Yeah.
Plus they needed them, so they were willing to take anybody and everybody. So I think him and two other guys joined together. Two of them ended up in the same Marine boot camp. Another one went somewhere else. And that was how he ended up getting in.
Is your father still living?
Yes, both of them are still living.
Man, do us a favor and tell your father thank you, from us here, because without the Vietnam veterans and the God, it's just to think about the things that we went through in combat, and then to try to live in their shoes, it's how do they say, like night and day.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine what they experienced.
Oh, I agree. My great grandfather was a Korean POW.
Oh,
he got hit with a Chinese rocket and spent 8 months in a Chinese POW camp. And he was one of the first POWs to get released. And the city of San Antonio threw him a parade. I have a whole, back in the day, we had Time Magazine and Life Magazine. Well, Life Magazine did a whole spread. So I got the whole 15-page article that they did on him. My grandmother, getting him off the plane, all that good stuff. So, my dad said what your grandfather went through was night and day compared to what I went through. And then, of course, him and I have those conversations between Vietnam and Gray, and I have talked about, previous wars. What we went through it was bad, but it was still nothing compared to what, our brothers and sisters before us went through. And thank God, we've gotten better at it, but,
right.
I couldn't imagine.
Well, we had a gentleman, Mike Martin, on, and he's a Vietnam veteran. And the story that he tells is that they put out a letter right when 9/11 happened saying that we're not to the future vets, to the future, to the guys getting or gals getting ready to join. We won't let what happened to us happen to you. And I'm going to say they pretty much accomplished their mission. They made sure, and I think that's the sense they have is we went through the worst. We're not going to let that happen to you. And they provided overhead cover for us. I can tell you that.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
100%. That's golly, I can't, just thinking about it, man, just brings chills to my skin, because I couldn't imagine being in their situation, especially, I mean, for the most part, we got love coming home, and they experienced the exact opposite. I couldn't do that.
It's different.
Yeah.
So you joined, this is pre 9/11, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Straight out of high school, 94. Yeah, I'm old.
Yeah, you old.
Hey, what were you in 94?
I was 9, bro. I was 9.
Hey, Cruz, you don't look it, man. I tell you that, bro.
It's vitamin E.
There you go. Yeah. So you entered in 94. You said straight out of high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. So this is a question that we always like to ask. Okay. When you first enlisted, let's start there. When you first enlisted and you pushed off to boot camp, was it what you expected?
I didn't really have an expectation. I really didn't know, because back then we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have the internet, so there wasn't really anything to access to find out what it is that I'm about to embark on. I had the benefit of my recruiter was actually a cool guy, was pretty honest. He used to come ball with us because I did the delayed entry program, so I joined a year before I shipped out. So he spent that next year balling with us pretty much every night that we went and played basketball. And he would give me insights and said, look, you're pretty disciplined as it is already. You're cocky. That's going to hurt you if you try to go there cocky. And it did. But, he really didn't give me any insight. So when I got there, it was really, this is what it is. What did I get into? And what is this about? How do I navigate this new land? And it was eye-opening. Don't get me wrong. But for me, I don't think it was as tough as a transition as it was for other people. The little details, keeping things clean, all that I did already living in a Marine household. My dad expected a certain type of mental resiliency, discipline. And so the discipline part wasn't hard. It was taking orders from people that I didn't agree with is what made it the most difficult. And then learning how to work with people that I've never worked with before. And I think those two were my biggest issues: authority and working with people that I just could not stand.
Yeah. I mean, damn. Yeah, it's true. I can see that. So what was your first duty station right out of basic?
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Campbell, Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah. Indoctrination started right away as soon as you hit 20th replacement. I think 101st and 82nd are two of those units that it's all about what we've done and what we're going to do and how we're going to continue to live up to what our forefathers did before us. So when you're on Campbell, it's one of those, you better know your military history. You better know what each and every name, the street is named for and the background for that. Every building that's named, you better know what the background for that is. And, it was all that hoo-hoo stuff, which I loved. I thrived on it. I appreciated where we came from. And but you're 18 years old, you're young and cocky. You're all about that stuff, but Campbell was definitely a different animal. And I ended up doing 6 years there. Technically 4, I went to Korea and then they sent me right back to Campbell. And you know how that goes. Sometimes you do one duty station and HRC sees that, they're going to send you right back.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you talking about Korea and Campbell, and I see it now, the pride that you had there, and I can see the parallels because you mentioned the 82nd, and it was the same way. Got to know the Medal of Honor recipients. Got to know why the gyms are the gyms. Got to know why the parks are the parks, or the streets are the streets, and you're like, there's a lot of history here.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy. Good.
Yeah, so we always find it unique because Rollo and I both joined post 9/11.
right.
Where were you when 9/11 happened? And can you take us through that experience of what that was like?
Actually, that was my, I call it my break in service, because I left active duty, came back home. I chilled on the block for 6 months and went to school. missed the military. So I ended up finding a civil affairs unit here on the reserve side of the house, and I joined them. And I was with them when 9/11 popped off. And I was tugged in two different ways. One, I was already serving, but it was, weekend warrior type thing. Coming off of active duty, I never thought I'd be a weekend warrior, but I became that. It was easy transition, and it's because I missed it. But I didn't want to go back and do it every day again, because I got burnt out. And being in the 82nd, it's easy to get burnt out when you're in that type of unit and that type of division element. So 9/11 popped off, and I weighed my options. Ended up finding a medevac unit they were just standing up brand new in the Texas Army National Guard. So I transferred out from the reserves back to the National Guard. Helped them stand up a medevac unit, and then stayed with them because being a new medevac unit, medevac is needed downrange. We've thought any minute now they're going to start pulling, Compo 2, Compo 3 to start helping support Compo 1. Well, we didn't have aircraft. We didn't have medical equipment. That took 2 to 3 years to get filled in. And it's one of those things where I didn't want to let go of that slot because I loved being a flight medic. I loved flying. So my time came in 2006 finally, and which is a long way after when I finally got there. So the transition for me from a garrison to combat back to garrison was a little different. And for y'all served for a specific reason. 9/11 happened, y'all took action, and you raised your hand. I was already in. So for me, it wasn't a let's go get them type thing. It was more of a, well, it's about damn time. I've already been in this for 15 years, and so I was already old by the time we went, serving around these young guys and seeing them transition. You and I've had that conversation, about 9/11 and what made you join. So for me, it was different. I was already in. For me, I've been on the sideline for so long. I was kind of jealous because I sat on the sideline a little bit longer, and guys like y'all got put in the game right away, but at the same time, I had every opportunity to do that. I just wanted to do it with this specific element.
All right. And Cruz mentioned something that I know not everybody who is active duty is familiar with. He said Compo 2, Compo 3. And what that is, it's reserve or National Guard. And it's not language that everybody uses, but if you're active duty, you're Compo 1. You don't ever really, I didn't know what it was until I got to Fort Sam, and I'm like,
yep.
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
So you did do, how many deployments did you do total?
Just one.
Just that one?
Yeah, just one.
And it's definitely different because when you're in the National Guard, you're on orders differently. And I didn't understand or appreciate it until I actually got to Fort Sam. And the reason why I keep bringing up Fort Sam Houston is because that's where I met Sergeant Cruz. And Fort Sam was a unique unit. It's the Warrior Transition Battalion. We got our fellow soldiers that are coming back injured, and they're all either National Guard, reservists, or active duty. So they're all compositions. They're all grades, and they're all different jobs, and they're just coming to get either healed and recover and then go back. But more often than not, they're coming back to move on. What year did you get to Fort Sam? I can't really remember.
2013.
Man, this feels like so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years.
Oh, it is almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dang. How long you been out?
I retired in 2016.
2016. So how many years? How many years did they give you?
Going on 7.
No. Total.
Oh, total time in service, 22 years.
Dang.
Yeah, I did 22. So I jumped back and forth from compo or from active duty, reserves, guard, and then went back active duty and finished out that tail end.
Man. Any regrets, man?
No. None. I mean, I've thought about it, and I'm sure Gray has done it too. When I think that first 30 to 45 days after hanging it up and realizing there's no PT, there's no NCOERs that need to be written, there's no awards that need to be written. So it's like, do I miss it? Do I not miss it? Is there something that I wish I would have done right before I left? And I think for me, I had a different transition and similar to Gray, but I didn't. I had back surgery in 2015, and that pretty much put me on the med board list. And they didn't tell me that they were going to put me in the 4 board, but as a medic with a broke back, I mean, I knew it was eventually going to come. I just didn't expect it to come the way it did. So when I had my surgery, I met with Sergeant Major Gavia, who was the hospital sergeant major, and they were trying to line me up to take the first sergeant slot because First Sergeant Guillory was on his way out. So I had already just had discussions with him about taking over his slot and being the first sergeant after he left. But I told her, give me some time to think about it. I have 45 days of con leave. Let me tell you when I get back. And that 45 days at home was the most stress-free I had been in a long time. So I had a discussion with my wife, and I was like, well, if I go back and tell her yes, accept the promotion, I have to stay in a minimum of 24 months to retire with the diamond, but it's a 3-year enlistment either way. So is this something that you think I want to do? And she was like, it's not about me, it's about you. She's like, but looking at you and the way that you've been the past 3 months and then on your convalescent leave, she's like, you're not going back. So I think she already knew. I was looking for that confirmation from her, but in my heart, I knew I was done. That diamond meant something to me early on, but towards the end, I was tired. I just didn't have it in me anymore. There was a transition happening with Army leadership higher up, and I just felt I don't have it in me to continue fighting that uphill battle. But at the same time, I didn't want to leave my NCOs behind. But what made it easy for me, though, was they were already moving out on their own anyways. M had gotten accepted to walk school. Gray was moving out on his thing. Sancho was getting ready to retire. So it was like we all left at the same time. So it made that decision even easier. And it's one of those things, if I would have left them there, I would have felt a little guilty because Gray can tell you it was a different environment and the leadership there was good, bad, and horrible sometimes. And I didn't want them to get stuck with somebody horrible because we had built such a tight-knit family.
Mm. Yeah, he speaks real highly of you, man. I know because when we had different podcasts, you would chime in, a comment here, a comment there, and he would always speak very highly of you.
Well, I always remember I went through several leadership courses since I got out, and I turned to, there's like 2 events, in my leadership career where I can turn to and be like, okay, this was a big pivotal moment. One of them I've talked about with my wife and how she was, my wife left me and she was like, only you can get better. Only you can fix this. And for me, that was huge. And it was a light bulb. And I was like, okay, I can do this. The other time was Sergeant Cruz pulled me into his office and was like, you've got to get help. You're letting your ego and your hardcore stuff kind of really show. And he's like, you can do better. And I want to see you go and get help. And this is probably right about the time he took over. So let's say 14, which for me, I went to war in 07, 08. So this is what, 8, 9, 10 years after, right? When all that stuff starts to come back. And since then, I've always seen mental health, or I've gone to take care of myself. And I look back at that moment, like if I didn't have a leader aware enough to say, hey, you get your shit together, then I probably wouldn't have and could have gotten in a worse situation.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of me and you though, and I told you that I was the same way. I didn't know how to lead. People followed me as an E5 and an E6, but to say that I knew how to lead, no, I had one leadership style at that point in time, and it was very authoritative. It took time, it took maturity to understand there's different leadership styles. You have to read the room, read your soldiers. You can't talk to them all the same way. And when I took that slot, the first thing I asked is, let me see the TDA. Let me see what MOSs I have. And I had 211 Bravos. Take it was 311 Bravos. Or no, what was NG? NG wasn't 11 Bravo, was he?
No, I think it was a supply.
Yeah. So I had 211 Bravos, I had supply, and then I had an ex-Marine. So I knew it was an uphill battle already. And the reason why I say this is because they understood that I was coming from a Compo 2 unit back on Compo 1 active duty. And unfortunately, there's still a frame of mind that Compo 2 and Compo 3 lack in leadership. And sadly, they do at certain times. So I knew I had to sit them down. I knew I had to approach them differently. So with them, it was more of, I'm not going to talk to them like an NCO. I shouldn't have to. They're 11 Bravos, are combat tested. I'm not going to ask for the respect. They're going to give it to me, but I'm going to earn the respect with them understanding that I care about you. I care about your family. I care about what's on your mind. I care about how you think we can get better as a platoon. If you have an idea, you need to bring it up to me. So I went in there with an open mind. There's some things that I already knew, but I didn't tell them that. I let them tell me what it is they did. I let them show me how it is they conducted business. And then I modified it from then on out if I felt we could do it better. But 9 times out of 10, they knew what the hell they were doing. And when I have NCOs like that, that just makes my job easier. I do all the admin shit and just make sure nobody messes with them, and I think for me, I think they really bought into it when they knew how much I cared. And I fought for them. And I stood up for them. And I went to bat for them. And I let top know that don't mess with them unless you talk to me. You don't go to my NCOs anymore. You may have done that early on, but that was because they had poor leadership and they had a poor NCO. I'm here now, and you will let me handle my platoon the way I handle my platoon. And he respected that. And from that conversation on, he said, Cruz, you do you. And that's what we did. And maybe it's biased, but I think Gray could tell you, and a lot of other people could tell you, their platoon was the best damn platoon in that company. We handled business, and when top needed anything, it was always third herd that he went to, and that's a reflection not of me, that's us. We took care of each other. We cared about what we did, and that made the job easier. But again, at the end of the day, I cared about those guys. We forged friendships, and we just happened to be working together in uniform.
Yeah, man, it's phenomenal. I mean, I wish you could have been a part of it. Really,
Nah,
actually, you know what? You kind of are now. Because that part of my life is so influential. And all the guys he talks about, M, he's a warrant officer now flying. Sancho's retired. He was a Marine, and I learned a lot from him too. And even before that, we had Sergeant Duraldi, and he was an amputee himself, a 19 Delta. And it was just an interesting time. When can you ever spend, you don't really have Joes. They're all different ranks and MOSs, and they're not doing everyday stuff. They're here to heal and get better. And so, Cruz, you said a word that sticks out to me, because this is what I say. This is why I was different at the 82nd, is he actually cared.
Yeah.
That made me so different when I went to the 82nd. And they're like, "Why the fuck do you care so much?" And I'm like, well, now it makes sense talking to Cruz about it, because it's the leadership that I was modeling after.
So y'all had an active duty Marine in y'all's platoon?
No, he was former Marine.
Oh, okay.
He came.
Okay.
I don't know what they
So
call
he
Marines.
transitioned to Army.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he got out. He got discharged. He was a lieutenant. Yeah, he was he made 7 gunnery sergeant. Then he transferred over to the officer corps and ended up getting out. And then he joined the reserves, in the Army reserves, and then he went on TOD like some of the other NCOs do, or Compo 2, Compo 3 guys, and came aboard at the WTB. So he was an ex-Marine officer who became an E6, because I had to sit him down and say, okay, guy, you're my age. You might be an E6, but I look at you as a peer. So, there's times where I definitely talked to Sancho differently, not as an E6, not E7, E6. It was more like peer to peer, because he was a grown ass man. He had a lot of leadership under his belt already. So there's times where him and I would talk, and I asked him, how the guys doing? How's Gray? How's M? Because they were the younger kids, so it was like mom and dad almost. I would tell Sancho, get on their ass before I go in there and get on their ass. So Sancho kind of mediated a lot. And I think he was just as integral in the success of that platoon as I was, or Gray and M. You take one of those away, and I don't think we would have been as successful. We would have succeeded because that's what we did. But each and every individual in there made a part of the team in a way that I've never been a part of. And it was the epitome of, you take one out, and the team wouldn't have failed. We would have succeeded, but it made the team so much better.
Yeah, everybody knew what they brought to the table.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I like that.
Yeah, and he was a drill sergeant too.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
a
yeah?
Marine drill sergeant. Yeah. He never yelled, but he was very motivating, bro. Had a lot of energy, you know what I mean?
Yes,
A
he
lot of
did.
energy. And in shape, man. He was.
Yeah,
As
He's
I
still like that.
you
Yeah.
still keep in contact with him?
Oh yeah, him and I talk all the time. I'm getting ready to go see his daughter play varsity basketball. I
Yeah.
think tomorrow.
She's good too. She was good then. She's even better now. I'm like, dang.
Oh yeah, she's got all kinds of D1 schools looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up.
He's
That's
a good dude. Great father too. Yeah, and I think that's what really excited me about getting you on, is kind of getting personal into it, and then just hearing your perspective. I'm curious to know, we did say you have a master's degree in leadership development. So what are some of the parallels from what they teach in the master's program and what you already knew or learned while serving?
For me, the master's program, it's hard to say because when it comes to education, it's already put out there in a certain format, and it's mandated by your school, maybe the Texas Education Council, whatever it is, that you have to meet certain requirements to graduate. We understand that. But when it came to true leadership, I don't think they really taught it. They taught you principles. They taught you, risk mitigation kind of things, dispute resolution type things, because as a leader, you're expected to do this. So to me, they taught it from a corporate standpoint, but where it made sense to me coming from the military side of the house is we were already doing risk mitigation. We were already doing, dispute resolutions in a different format, in a different way. But I think one of the biggest things it opened up my eyes to is, again, the different leadership styles. Robert Greenleaf, his book about leadership is one of the best books that I've ever read. And it breaks down each and every individual leadership style. It breaks it down to understand the human being themselves. And as men, we're born leaders. Every man is a leader in some way, shape, or form. The kicker is we don't know when to ask for help necessarily. And then there's a certain time in our lives where we don't want help. I don't want your constructive criticism. I don't care if you're trying to help me. What I'm doing is working. It is. But if you could do it so much better and so much more effectively, why wouldn't you try it? That comes with maturity, that comes with age. But reading that book really set me up for success on the civilian side of the house. And it definitely set me up for success as a father. I think that's where leadership really came into play for me. And I think the way the Army has worked out, you have these fast trackers, not to badmouth fast trackers, but there's a certain maturity level that comes with being a senior NCO and understanding people. We don't have that in our 20s. We're still figuring out ourselves. Now you want me to lead 18, 19-year-olds when I'm just 2 to 3 years older than them because I have 2 extra rockers? So I think that comes into play too. Maturity is a big thing when you're a leader and understanding people. And don't get me wrong, there's some grown-ass men out there that are immature and still don't know how to lead. Despite how many Lean Six Sigma courses they've been to, they could be a triple black belt. It doesn't matter. There's some that can lead and there's some that just don't belong in that position. So school set me up for success on the civilian side because it gave me that piece of paper. But do I think school made me a better leader? Definitely. I can't say it didn't. It added to my tool belt. It gave me more tools to use on the civilian side because, again, transitioning, I wasn't going to another Army unit. I'm working with civilians now, and I'm still who I am. I still talk the way I used to talk, but I had to learn how to modify that personality, modify that tone, that inflection, and understand that I can't talk to civilians the same way that I could probably talk to you two, even though we're civilians now.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's common language. So what you mentioned Robert Greenleaf. Which book are you referring to? Because I see several.
It's Leadership Principles, I think it is. It's been so long since I've read it.
Okay.
I have it on my computer, as a matter of fact.
Add it to my queue. I appreciate that.
I'm surprised you don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
It's funny. You remember we had Craig Casipe on and we talk about parallel lives. And Cruz and I, we really haven't talked for this long in several months. And so it's nice to catch up and hear that there's still parallels, still being able to learn it. And I appreciate your perspective on leadership, especially because it makes a lot more sense hearing it from you, because now it means like, okay, this is some of the same language I used, right? Like, to be a better leader for me really means being able to be a better person so I can be a better father. Like, that's where all my leadership principles go. The more I learn about leadership, the better father I become. That's really, really important to me right now. And to hear you say that, obviously, as a father of 2 boys, it's reassuring.
So,
there's no book on how. There's a book on how to be a father, but there's no book to teach you the nuances. The first time I had to look at my son in the eye and said, "Daddy, sorry, I made a mistake, and this is why." apologizing to a grown man is one thing. When you apologize to your kid, I think it's a very humbling experience as a man. And I think we as fathers don't do it enough because our kids look up to us. I told my son last night, I'm not mistake free. Daddy is not perfect. Daddy will continue to make mistakes. I was like, but Daddy will admit when he's wrong, and Daddy will admit when he screws up, because that's the only way you're going to learn. Hey,
his son just popped up.
Classic. They hear you talking about.
That's my 4-year-old boy. He's like me. The 12-year-old's like his mom, real emotional. This dude is. Him and I are going to go at it. So I definitely am going to have to use some of those leadership principles when it comes to parenting this kid as he gets older.
He just showed up out of nowhere. You ever seen that movie, Mr. Deeds?
Yeah.
Where the guy's like, I'm going to change your socks.
Oh, he's like, hey, you're sneaky, sir.
Yeah. That was funny.
You had a question?
Yeah, man. So what is your degree in?
Education.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I picked that because as a medic, I did 3 years at AIT, teaching 6 to 8 whiskeys when they were going through AIT. And then I transitioned out from there, and I was a brigade combat trauma training team instructor for 4 years. So that really helped me understand where my biggest influence in life is. I mean, being in the Army, you're thrown into those different spots. If you want to make more rank, well, you have to get this position, and it's not necessarily the position that's going to help you grow as a man, as a person, as a leader. They're just what you have to do to get to that next level. And let's be honest, some of the NCO core schools that we have nowadays, they don't focus on leadership. They focus on a lot of other things, which are hurting the core at this time now, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's just one of those things.
No, I agree with you 100% on that, because I think about the time, like I don't not to talk shit on anything, but I remember coming in and the type of NCOs and the soldiers that we were having, and then when I was getting out, the type of NCOs and the soldiers we were having, I was like, oh shit,
the quality.
Yeah, quality, exactly.
And the sad thing about it is, though, we've seen that after every single conflict we've been in, we've seen not the downfall, but the lack of leadership in the NCO Corps. We saw after Desert Storm, all your NCOs got out. They got tired. They got burnt out. They got med boarded. And you had all these new slick sleeve guys, and we were learning from them, but they didn't know much more than we did, And then, again, I came from a garrison to a combat back to a garrison. So I had the full spectrum. And understanding that some of these combat NCOs were damn good combat NCOs, but they were going to struggle in garrison because they didn't know how to fill out a DA 638. They didn't know how to do quarterly counseling. They were in combat the whole time, and it's no fault to them. But the Army should have wised up and said, hey, when we're bringing these guys back, we need to focus on building leaders now. So we keep them in, because if we lose them, well, those are our combat tested NCOs. Who's going to teach the next generation? You can't teach combat from a pamphlet.
Mm-hmm. It's 100%. I understand completely.
Yeah. I mean, and we hear it a lot too. It's not just from our podcast, but from other podcasts, and a lot of that. It's just decide, hey, 10 years. You think 10 years is the hump, and it's like, no, I can do 10, 12, and still get out. 14 and still get out. And like, people are like, why didn't you stay in longer? It's like, I'm just done. I'm done. I'm ready to go.
Tired, man.
I'm tired. It's everything's evolving. And you hit on some key points, just being able to focus on that person. And sometimes, Big Army loses that. So how was your transition out from, this strong, cohesive unit to doing what you do now, which is, hold on, let me find it. I forget. Tell us what you're doing now.
I'm the Senior Education Coordinator for the Joint Trauma Education Training Directorate.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that right.
Yeah, not at all.
So it's still involved with training soldiers. Yes,
definitely. But from the curriculum, so think of it as the operational level. Now we write curriculum. Everything that we do is mandated from a JROCM or a DOTI from Congress. So everything we do is mandated by Congress and pushed out to the services. So you remember when you went through first aid in CLS? Well, we just rewrote all of that curriculum again. And if you ever get a chance, go on deployedmedicine.com and you'll see all the educational products that the joint trauma system is producing and pushing out there for medical providers, whether they're PAs, nurses, docs, 68 whiskeys, flight medics. We're putting medicine in the palm of their hands because they can also access it from their cell phones, which nowadays you get cell service anywhere.
Right.
You know, so there's no reason for on the medical side of the house for them to say, well, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. We'll pull out your damn phone and start playing Stump the Chump and do some medicine.
Yeah, I like it.
So you went straight into that role?
No, when I retired, I got that. I was teaching at the Warrior Cadre course.
Right.
I spent 3 years there, all incoming cadre for the Warrior transition units. They came through that 3-week cadre course, and we just taught them the ins and outs of the population, how to do some of the paperwork, understanding the environment that they were going into. And again, that was just right up my wheelhouse. You know, I think I was pretty successful there as a leader. So it was an easy transition to teach incoming leaders how to be better leaders in the environment that you're about to embark on. Because you was in 11 Bravo, coming from, you know, Rock of the Marne to WTU, those are two different worlds here. You know, you're not rocking the Marne here. You're towing the line and taking care of soldiers. And then on top of that, they're family members, which is a totally different way of taking care of family members than we did, you know, when we were in a regular line unit.
Hey, hearing Rock at the Marne pumps me up. I want to throw this table against the wall.
Yeah. You know, my uncle, my dad's brother, older brother, he served at the Rock of the Marne.
Really?
He was like, they still sing that song? I'm like, yeah, they still sing that song.
Every morning.
So what did you have any difficulties, you know, putting up the uniform and transitioning out?
Putting up the uniform was easy. The biggest issue I had, and I still have it, I think it's getting better, but it's understanding my place in life now. When you wear that uniform, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing every single day, and you know where you fit in, whether it's your rank or your title or your position. When you get out, you're just another Joe on the block. How do you separate yourself from them, and where do you fit in? Well, where do I go? How do I make an impact now? There's no platoon, there's no nothing. It's just me, myself, and I, and now I have to build relationships again. Now I have to prove myself all over again. And so it was a struggle, and I'm still navigating it, because I feel for me, I still haven't found my niche. I still haven't found my place in life. At the same time, I think, and I look in the mirror, well, maybe my place in life is at home as a father. Maybe that's where I'm supposed to be right now, because I think I'm pretty damn good at it. You know, so maybe I'm searching, but the man upstairs is telling me, no, it's right there in front of you. Every day you spend with your boys, every day you get an opportunity to influence them and lead them, because I'm blessed that my wife has a good job. And if I decided to quit and just be a stay-at-home dad, it'd be an easy transition for me, you know? So I might be looking for something that I've already found. I just haven't acknowledged it yet, you know? So it's not a struggle anymore. You know, I'm successful, but it's still one of those things where I wake up and say, is this still where I'm supposed to be? Is this my calling in life? And again, I think I'm an educator. I think I'll find my way back to educating again. It hasn't found me yet in the way that satisfies me and fulfills me, if that makes sense.
He's a damn good speaker, bro. Like, I could see you doing some like motivational speaking type engagements, man. You pump me up.
No, that's great. I think that's key. It really is. And for me, what I like to rate to a lot of vets is, you know, life comes in waves, right? It's a cycle. It's never the same. And right now, maybe you're exactly right. Maybe that's your calling, is to kind of, you know, focus more on home. And I see you do that. I've seen it in some of your posts, and I know you're not as active on socials anymore. But I see you, right? I see you. I see how great of a father is, and it's good to have you still in my life. No homo, but it's good to have you in my life, and I absolutely I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Definitely, man.
Yeah,
well, I'll put it out there. You have any one-off stories about the WTB, and maybe, you know, me?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we were. Yeah, we didn't operate like a normal line unit where we could get away with things kind of like that. And I think it's because, I mean, we were on call 24/7. You know, when y'all were on leave, I made a point to y'all: don't call, don't email, don't do anything, take your leave and go away, because this was one of those units where you definitely needed to decompress, So I think for me, one-off stories, my favorite memories though are, working out, our two-a-days, our circuit training, our fish fries, our turkey cookouts, those stand out to me because it was always third herd, leading the way. And, we're up at 04 in the morning with Clay Horn, getting pots ready, lighting fires and seasoning turkeys at my house in the backyard at 9:00 at night to take them back. Those are those one-off stories that I miss. That's that camaraderie that I miss. And, that just, again, it was, I can't say it enough, man. It was a different unit. It's one of the happiest and best units I've ever served with.
You know what I guess what is disappointing from that part is it doesn't get enough recognition, right, from Big Army. Like that unit really it's significant. And we were issued Blackberries. We were on call 24/7. Like a soldier calls you, you got to answer. And whether it be good or bad, and sometimes it's bad, and they just need, or you have to do, because these soldiers are dealing with traumatic events that are happening in their lives. Some of them are missing limbs, some of them are severely burned, could be dealing with cancer or whatever it may be. So they get put in that traumatic space. And sometimes we talk about suicide a lot. Sometimes suicide was what they think was their only option. You've got to be there for them.
Yeah.
And, and then again, you take on their burdens. Like, how can I help this person? And I know there was talk at one point for them to issue a badge or something, because it was like that type of duty, like a drill sergeant duty, like a recruiter duty. You were full in. And then you're right, those events of like during the holidays, we would always do something together. And our first sergeant was great about making sure, like, once a month we would have like fish fries, or we would during the football season, he'd be like, wear your jersey into work. And you're like, man, could never do that anywhere else besides at this unit.
Yeah.
It really unique. That's cool, man.
That's what's up. I enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed hearing what you guys had to say. Speak on if anybody's struggling.
Yes. Yeah. So we did talk about trauma. If you're out there and you need someone to talk to, it's 988. That is the mental health crisis hotline. All right. If you're a veteran, it's 988 and press 1. Just reach out, man. It's the holiday season. If you're looking for something to do, reach out to your old unit. I know they got a Facebook page somewhere, right? Reach out on that Facebook page. Make sure you check in with your folks. Send a text. That's one thing that we can always do, is just let folks know that we're here for you. And if it takes a call and you think you're at the end of your rope, you're not. There's more out here for you. It's 988. Press 1 for vets.
That's what it. Man, that amazing. I can. Hey, speak.
Hey, Cruz, let me ask you before we finish up and wrap up. What does Charlie Mike mean to you?
It's a platform for vets to go to and see other vets. I think social media has done a lot of good things as far as bringing attention to PTSD, bringing attention to what it is we go through. But there's not a lot of platforms like yours that I've seen where we admit the struggles. We admit how hard it was to transition, whether it was medical discharge or normal retirement, and the continued struggles that we will have after hanging up the uniform. Whether it's PTSD or whatever trauma it is you went through in your life. Having a platform like this, having for guys to go to and say, you know what, I just heard 3 guys talk about the same stuff that I go through, but I'm still not willing to get help. But yet all 3 of them did it. We can't continue to put it out there that we take care of our brothers and sisters, but there's not more platforms like this that say, hey, I struggled. I was an alcoholic. I contemplated suicide. I've been there. So when I tell you I care, I honestly care. And if you don't want to call them, send me a message and we'll link you up with somebody eventually, but you're not alone. I don't want to read that. I want to hear it. I want to see somebody tell me to my face, you're not alone, because you're not. I'll be damned if somebody calls me and says they need help and I don't say, I'm on my way. Not hold on, not let me call you back. I'm on my way. Where are you? Stop what you're doing. I'll be right there. And I don't think we do it enough. We talk a lot of smack as veterans. We talk a lot about how we care, but actions speak louder than words. Show me what you're going to do, put it in action. And you're doing it.
That was amazing.
I mean, it's hard to follow anything up like that. I mean, that was well said. I was just curious, because we are here to continue mission. There was so much more. And I want to say, I want to recognize you, Cruz, for all that you do. And this conversation really has opened my mind to why I am the way I am. I've always said it. You've been a great influence in my life, and hearing your language and the way you talk about being a father and being a servant leader, it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense why I am the way I am. And I know there's things that you've said that he's picked up on. It's like, oh man, that's where he gets it from.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you're exactly right. It is.
Yeah.
Exactly. It really is. So I want to take the time and acknowledge you for being who you are, being open, being vulnerable. So just really thank you for all that you do. You continue to do for this community. Do you have any calls to action for veterans that are out there listening?
My biggest thing is ask for help, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's financial, whether it's marital, it doesn't matter. Anything that you're going through, somebody else has gone through it. Somebody else can give you insight. Somebody else can give you advice. And if they can't give you those two things, they can link you up with somebody that can. So ask. We're here for each other. All you have to do is ask. And I guarantee you somebody's going to pick up that phone and call you back and help you out with whatever it is you're going through.
That's awesome, man. We really appreciate you being on the show today. We thank you. And you definitely got to come back, man.
Anytime. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for what y'all do. And I hope those numbers go up. And I hope your viewers continue to grow. And I'm going to email Joe Rogan right now and say, hey, you need to watch this podcast.
You get him. Man, you guys, be sure, if you haven't, be sure to follow my man William on all his social media platforms, Facebook, IG, TikTok. How do they follow you, William?
My handle is WGARAYJR. It's W Garay Jr.
His motivational videos, man, daily motivational videos are inspiring. So be sure to check that out. Leave a comment. Tell them you're watching. If you haven't, be sure to check out Charlie Mike Military Apparel. We're doing free shipping till the end of the year.
That's right.
With promo code Charlie Mike. If you're GovX, be sure to use your discount code. With all of that, I think.
Yeah, man, I got nothing else. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Reach out to other veterans, check in on them, let them know. Charlie Mike.
As always, Charlie Mike.
Let me give me one more admin note.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Just for you. I met Gray when he was very, very young, and I've watched him grow through his videos. I've watched him grow through his conversations on the phone with me, and I can honestly say I'm proud to see the man that you've become, the father and the husband. So if you ever question what it is you're doing, or if you're doing it right, don't. Look in your mirror, tell yourself that you're proud of yourself, because I'm proud of you. You're doing things right. You've become somebody that a lot of people didn't think you were going to be. You know what I mean? So you're doing good things, Greg. I'm proud of you. Keep it up.
That's what's up.
Now I'm done.
Man, that's what's up. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, Charlie Mike.